Welcome everybody to episode 1 of PEGTV. Now I'm really excited that we're finally able to start this show. It's a project we've had in the pipeline for about the last year, but just with other commitments we haven't got it going. So what's PEGTV all about? Well, it's going to be a regular video blog delivered by myself and my business partner John Paul of Castledine Group over in the northeast of the country. We're going to have people ask us questions, so feel free to get your questions on Twitter feed, and Ross, who's filming in the back, will put all of those links on the bottom of the video. Twitter handle is @RobProperty, and put your question in with the hashtag PEGTV, and we'll get those questions answered for you on the next episode, if that's good. So we're going to go through 3 questions every time. Now it could be about property systems, business, entrepreneurship, or just life in general. If it's appropriate, we'll get it on the video. Now the other thing we're going to do is I'm challenging myself. We're going to get this live as soon as possible. So we're going to live stream it, which is going to be really cool. And it's also going to be a one-take wonder as well. So no editing, and Ross is going to look after all of that for us. So let's crack on. So we're going to get into the questions. Ross, what's the first question we got today?
What are your top 3 predictions for property in 2016?
Cool, top 3 predictions for property in 2016. Great question. Now 2015 saw a lot of change in the property industry. I think there's been a lot of regulatory change, a lot of budget change, the chance of doing everything. So we've got a few things coming in 2016, especially things like stamp duty changes in April, which are going to shake things up a little bit. And I know people are now thinking about how their personal tax situation is going to be changed as well. So what do I think? Number 1, my gut feeling is there's going to be a rush on property before April, before the new stamp duty taxes come into force. However, don't forget that the cheaper the property, actually the less of an impact these stamp duty changes are. So I reckon there's going to be a run on northern properties, which is kind of cool if we're up north and we're deal sourcing. But northern properties are great because they're very high yielding. Sort of stuff that we're buying at the moment. Just recently completed on something in Ellesmere Port, which is where the office is, which is a cafe on the bottom and a flat on above. We bought that for £50,000. That's going to generate about £800 a month rent, so fantastic returns on those. So when you combine those really high yields with lower stamp duty and lower costs of buying, it's actually a really good investment proposition. And as the boom happens more in the southeast, I know it's slowing down a little bit now, London and the southeast, maybe some money's going to shift up north. So that's my property prediction number 1. Number 2 is, as a strategy, commercial conversion. It's going to continue to grow in popularity, so taking offices, turning them into flats. Now we've got a service department business, which is a really great no money down. We're not buying them, we're leasing them from landlords and operating them as service departments. So I think combining commercial conversion with service departments is a really powerful strategy, because you're able to buy what is hopefully a fairly cheap asset, because if you buy like a block of offices with no lease on it, it's not worth that much. Buy it cheap, add value by turning it into flats, and then get the high yields by operating it as a service accommodation business is a really great property prediction. So that's one of the strategies that we're really focusing on this year in our own businesses. So commercial conversion to service departments. And third is going to be, I think, property investors are going to have to act more like business owners. You have to treat your property portfolios more like a proper business. Clearly, Osborne is really hoping to shift buy-to-let into the limited company structure. And I think with all the information out there, with all the tech out there, with all the different ways of doing things and the different property market we now live in, I think having a savvy business head on you as a property investor is going to really put you in good stead. So starting up your business properly, growing it properly, sustainable, having the systems in place to do that is all very important things you'll be doing in your property business this year. So those are my top 3 predictions for 2016. Next question, Ross.
So the next one is, how do you structure your day?
Bam, how do I structure my day? Interesting question. So I'm just going to rewind a little bit from that, and I'm going to talk about, rather than how I structure my day, time management in general, if that's okay with you. Okay, so it's a really boring subject, time management, but on the flip side, it's actually one of the most important things you'll ever do. Now, I kind of really learned this a few years ago when I was effectively working pretty stupidly. I think you probably heard it, busy work, or being a busy fool and just sitting at the desk shuffling paper around, not really doing an awful lot of being very effective. So one of the books that I was reading at the time was Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Not the most interesting read, difficult read, but really important you do it. And habit number 3 is all about time management, and Covey breaks down time into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1 is all about things that are important and urgent, things you've got to do straight away, like the VAT returns due tomorrow, you can't get out of doing that. Quadrant 2 we'll skip, come back to in a little bit. Quadrant 3 are things that are urgent but not important. So it seems like they're urgent. Maybe it's the phone, your phone goes off, or your boss calls you into a meeting and you've got to go, or you feel you have to go and do it, but actually it's not very important. You don't achieve anything. Then quadrant 4 is things that are not urgent and not important. So a lot of time wasters, a lot of email, a lot of surfing on Facebook, all that sort of stuff. Which doesn't achieve anything for you at all. Now, quadrant 2 are things that are really important but not very urgent. Okay, so things like developing relationships, income generating activities, networking, strategic thinking, all those things that you have to do to grow your business. But because they're not important, you never do it. It's kind of always get pushed to the right of your day or your week or your month, and you never get around to doing them. So what I always say to everybody is get out of quadrant 3 and quadrant 4 by effectively, we run through a process called eliminate, automate, delegate. So get rid of all the rubbish, automate as much as you can, and then delegate as much as you can. So start growing a team, whether that's outsourcers or actual staff members. And then by getting out of those 2 categories, you're going to put yourself in quadrant 2. Do that strategic thinking, do that big picture thing, and that will reduce your time in quadrant 1, which is pulling out those fires. So what do? Every day I make sure I do something in quadrant 2, something that's going to generate some income or develop a relationship, something that's going to be hugely important to my business. So for example, later on today, I'm taking out 2 members of my team for lunch, and we're going to put the strategy in place for accelerating the deal sourcing business. It's also good to have some fun with it as well. So go out and do that in an informal way. So that's one quadrant 2 activity that we're doing today. Actually, doing this right now is a quadrant 2 activity because this is building relationships in the community. So it's all I really would try and get 2, definitely 1 if not 2 quadrant 2 activities in the day. The big thing is it's discipline with yourself. Don't sit there checking your email every day. Don't sit there checking not even every day, every hour, your Facebook every day. Get out there, generate income into your business, develop those relationships. And that's my answer to that question.
Okay, third one's in from SJ. Hi Rob, I've been in property for 6 months now and don't seem to be making the progress I expected. Have you got any tips?
Cool. SJ, thanks for that. 6 months. This is, okay, where do we go with this one? So, property is a fairly long game. We live in a world of instant gratification. And I think a lot of people get into the industry thinking that things are going to happen straight away. You're going to get, 5, 6, 7, £10,000 a month cash flow within the first 6 months of your business. You're going to be a millionaire within a year. It's all going to be nice and easy and live happily ever after. However, the reality is probably not quite like that. And one of the things I want to really bring you into behind the scenes of our businesses in this video blog is really probably a lot of the reality about how the businesses really work. What we'll do, Ross, sometime actually we'll do on-site episodes. So we'll go to some of our projects or into the office. Sounds a bit sort of urban, into the projects, doesn't it? Like down in London or New York, something like that. Not those sort of projects, into our deals that we're doing. Have a look at those, answer your questions. You can kind of see that behind the scenes as well. So back to the original question. A lot of people ask me what's the kind of formula for success, and I always say the same thing. It's consistency, dedication and discipline. So really what you need to be doing is, I'm sure you're probably doing the right things, but if not, SJ, feel free to drop me a line and we can have a chat and see what your strategy is and what you're doing. But you have to do it with consistency. You have to have that discipline to carry on doing it over and over and over again. So when you get knocked down, you get to pick yourself back up again and do some more viewings or put some more marketing out, or you tweak your copy. But in general, 6 months is you're still learning your trade, really. For your first year or even 2 years, you're still learning the business. Just to give you an example, if I take you back, and if you're with me when I started in property in 2011, it took 2 years of hard graft, buying single lets, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying go and do this because we kind of did it wrong back then and did all the work myself, which was not very leveraged. But it took 2 years to even get a income that paid my mortgage. Okay, so if I'd given up after that 6 months or that year, then I wouldn't have got to that accelerate part of the business growth. And I would usually say that the first year one really is about learning it. Year 2 and 3 is about starting to build some momentum. And for those of you who are sort of year 3 and above, year 3 to 5 is when you start to see that acceleration in your business. And that's the exciting place to be. But the problem is a lot of people don't get to year 3 to 5 because they've done it for 6 months, seen another shiny penny, maybe go and do another strategy or some e-commerce or some share trading or something like that, and then those seeds that have been sown just die and under the ground rather than sprout and grow. So really, my advice to you would be, clearly, if you're doing something completely wrong, I'd have to have a look at that and give you that advice. But dedication, consistency, discipline, carry on doing what you're doing. And you will get results. Keep putting yourself in the community, immerse yourself in the industry, and you will get results. Good answer? So that's all the questions done for episode 1 of PEGTV. It's been a blast. Ross, how do you think it's gone?
It was good.
It was good. I think, in fact, what we're going to do is we're going to get Ross. We're going to get Ross's Twitter handle and Facebook. We might need to make that for you. I reckon Rossi G. How does that sound? That's cool. So that's episode 1. Ross is going to put some sort of funky spinning logo in, which looks good. Don't forget, let's get some questions in for episode number 2. We want 3 great questions. We'll give you a shout out. Talk about you, and don't forget, Twitter is the best place to ask questions at @RobProperty with hashtag PEGTV, all uppercase, PEGTV, all uppercase. Get those questions out. Have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon.